Hi all! If you're a returning viewer, welcome back. If you are new, welcome. My name is Amira and my channel is all about trying new makeup, talking about new makeup, but also finding new and exciting ways to be inspired by the makeup you already own. If that sounds good to you, I hope you consider subscribing, and if you enjoyed today's video, hitting the like button. Today, guys, we are going to talk about spring palettes. Spring is allegedly on its way, allegedly. Today it is, I think, 30 degrees and quite windy with flurries. So that is, theoretically spring is on its way, but I figured we'll be optimistic. We'll talk about spring palettes. I have pulled some palettes from my collection that I like to reach for during the springtime. Some of these are newer, some of these are older. I try to create a bit of a mishmash, a bit of a mixture of newer things and older things, because I don't necessarily feel that you have to go out and buy new palettes every season. You know what I mean? Like, you can continue to use the things that you already own. Some of these I like to reach for in the fall as well. So they kind of are great for transitional seasons. Let's get into it. First up, let's talk about one of my all-time favorite palettes in my collection, and that is my Give Me Glow Vintage Rose palette. So I'll show you what it looks like. It's a beautiful palette. Beautiful palette. Look at that. Can you see why I think spring when I look at this? Because it's a rose palette. It's beautiful. The tones are stunning. I love this palette. I love the aesthetic of it. Give Me Glow has one of my favorite eyeshadow formulations for indie brands, but just in general, I think they have an amazing eyeshadow formula. Their metallics are insane. And what I love about this is you get those rosy tones, but you get a choice of, like, if you want to go super pink, or if you want to go with this sort of like rosy muted tone, or somewhere in between. You get this beautiful matte green and this metallic green that has a bit of a shift to it. You get a really bright pink, but then you also get this beautiful tone here. And this kind of has like a shimmer to it, like a shift to it rather, but that it's very subtle. But it's a beautiful, beautiful, easy to use palette. It's one of, like I said, it's one of my faves in my collection, and it's one of my favorite eyeshadow formulas. Next up is a palette that I recommend only for two reasons. Well, three. If you like pastels, if you like Natasha Denona and you don't mind paying Natasha Denona pricing, and if you want something that's easy to use. You know what I mean? Because pastels can be really hard. They can be hard to formulate. They can be hard to get to show up on the eye, especially if you are of a deeper skin tone. But I do think that Natasha's pastel palette actually does a really good job on all three fronts. It's a beautiful palette. I don't reach for this very often, but I do find it. I have two pastel palettes in my collection. I have the Give Me Glow Pastel Dreams, and I have this one, and I actually do prefer this one. Even though I love Give Me Glow and I love their formula, those shades are, you get really large pans of sort of a monochromatic almost pastel color story. You get a bit more variation with this, and you get a bit more variation in texture, which I enjoy. So again, this is what it looks like, and what I love is that not only do you get variation in color and tone and texture, but you get variation in formulation. So she has a couple of her cream to powders. She has her traditional powder. She has a nice little duochrome. She's got some really great shimmers. And I feel like this is a nice, easy to use, like user-friendly pastel palette. It is on the pricier side at 60. I think her middies now are like 67 or 69. Everyone's gone up on their pricing. So I believe these are like $69 now, which is not cheap at all. Natasha Denona isn't cheap, but if you are someone who enjoys Natasha's formula and you want to sort of have a pastel palette that kind of has a little bit more versatility, a little bit more to offer than a lot of other pastel palettes, I think this is a good option. Another Natasha Denona that I want to recommend is the Mini Retro. I have the, what is it, Retro Glam or Glam Retro, whatever it's called. you can skip that. You honestly can. It's nothing wrong with the formulations. I just don't think it's that. I don't think that palette has enough depth and dimension and versatility for the price point. But what does have all of those things, I think, is actually the mini size, which is 20, I think they're like 27, 29 now. You get 5 shadows. I love this palette. It is so easy to use. That you get 2 mattes, you get 3 metallics. And I really, honestly, I dip a lot into this shadow and these, like I will wear just these 2, like this buffed all over the lid with a little bit of this, or you can do these 2 and then I take this into my inner corner, or that one in my inner corner. You can wear these 2 together. It's just for a tiny little baby palette with only 5 shadows. It is such a great, versatile, well thought out color story. So I always recommend this palette to anyone who's talking about like wanting to try a mini from Natasha. I always recommend this one. This is my favorite of the ones that I've tried, and I think it's you get good bang for your buck because you get her formulation, you get a nice color story, and it's only like 27 bucks. All right, let's talk about 2 newer palettes, and I'm going to talk about both of them kind of at the same time because they're from the same brand. So I'm wearing one of them on my eyes now, and that is the Cosmic Brushes Serenity palette. And this palette was all over YouTube and Instagram when it first came out last year, and I was one of those people who kept trying to get my hands on it, and it kept selling out. I finally got my hands on it, but then I got too busy to try it. So it's been sitting in my collection for a little while now, and I just really started dipping into it recently. And I get what the hype is about, guys, because the reason why I'm picking it for this, for spring in itself, like this particular season, is because if you want color, but you want deep, rich tones to reach for, along with those sort of pastel-y bright or even slightly almost neon, you know, like those shades that the Natasha Denona pastel palette has, but with a little bit more punch, a little bit more grunge, a little bit of dirt thrown on it, a little bit more interest and variation. I think this is a great option, and this is what the color story looks like. I'm sure you guys have seen this palette a million times, but let me tell you what I have on my eyes today, because I'm wearing this palette today and I only have 2.5 shades, well, 2 shades, technically 3. So I have this all over my lid. This is the only color, like the matte you're seeing, this is the only thing that's on my lid, and that is the shade Mood. And then I took a little bit of Opal and a teeny tiny bit of Serenity, and I put Opal on my lower lash line. I don't know if you guys can see that. And then I took it here and here and took a little bit of Serenity on top there. So that's really that's all that's on my eyes today. And this is a beautiful palette. I've reached a ton for the blues because when I look at this, I just kind of want to play with the blues. But the purples, you've got this beautiful neon. This is a palette that I think is great for spring because of these like soft tones that are very sort of springy, you know, but then you have these punches of color, you know, you've got these sort of like grungy greens, you've got these vibrant blues, you've got a brown if you need it, this is a really well thought out and very versatile palette. And you've even got a black right in the corner here if you need to, like, you know, deepen your outer corner. It's a really well thought out palette, and I think it's a great palette for spring and summer. But I think if you're looking for something now with a little bit of color to it, but that also has a sort of springy pastel-y vibe, this is a really great option. If you can catch it when it's in stock, it sells out constantly. This is a permanent palette, so it's not like it's a limited edition thing. If you can't get your hands on it now and you still want it, you can do like I did. I waited until I was able to get my hands on it, and that's what I did. I think this is a UK brand, so I think in US dollars, this was about 23 bucks. I mean, that's such a great price, and for the quality, and it's an insane price, actually. I mean, and think about that. I mean, just to give you a little bit of perspective, I love this palette. This palette is more than this palette, but the formulas are just as high quality. The second palette from Cosmic Brushes that I want to talk about is the newer palette that they just released called the Muse palette. And here it is. Yes, I have it. I got my hands on it. I did not get it in the first launch. I got it in the later in the day, people who missed out, and she posted a pre-order. I got in on that, which I'm very excited about. And I think she shipped them out really in a really reasonable time. So I'm quite happy with it. I've only played with this a little bit, and I'm still sort of figuring out how I want to do a full look with it. I've only kind of tapped into a few shades here and there, and if I can remember, I will try to remember to post a picture of a look I did with this palette. But the Muse palette is it's like the muted sister, like the older sister of Serenity. It's still colorful. A lot of people thought that they would be quite similar, and I'll put them next to each other so you can see a bit of a comparison. I didn't think they were that close when I purchased Muse. I was like, no, I don't think it's that close. But then when I opened them up, I was like, well, I can kind of see it, but also I can kind of not see it. It's just, I think what the issue is that the tones are similar, but their undertones and the way that they're arranged, and I feel like also like Muse has a bit more grunge to it. It's a bit more turned down, and let me show it to you. Haven't shown it to you yet. This is what it looks like. So what I like about this is, again, you get bright shades, but do you notice how like it has a little bit of grunge element? And so if you're like me and you like a little bit of dirt thrown on your colors sometimes, you know, this mustardy tone, even this one, it's like a green undertoned neutral. It's just stunning. And what I like about this is you can use this in the spring, you can use it in the fall, you could even probably use this in the winter. I mean, you can use palettes whenever you want to use them, duh, but I'm just saying, as far as for me, like tones that I tend to reach for in certain seasons, I tend to gravitate more towards specific types of tones and shades. And for me, this is something that I can see myself using a lot in spring and fall, in those transitional seasons, because it has that sort of transitional quality of tones that are very, you know, they can be very springy, but then you also have got these tones that are very fall-like. So for me, I'm like, if you are someone who's not really like, I want to try color, but I don't want to be super bright, I want something with a little bit more visual interest, Muse is a good option. Again, this is a permanent palette. She sells out. Her palettes sell out constantly. It's a very popular brand. If you can pre-order like I did, I say go ahead and do that. It makes it much easier. You pre-order, it ships out when they come in. Perfect. Or you can wait for the next restock. You just will have to really be like on your game when she restocks. But let me put these two up next to each other so you can see what I'm talking about. So try to do this in a way that makes sense. So this is Muse, and this is Serenity. Muse, Serenity. So as you can see, they're similar, but not the same. You know, I feel like if you want a little bit of grunge, go with Muse. And if you want a bit more brightness, go with Serenity. Next up we're gonna go into luxury now, after doing something really, I mean, Natasha Denona's luxury, but what I'm about to talk about now is a bit more luxury. And so we're gonna talk about Pat McGrath. We're gonna talk about her full sizes. So first up is Divine Rose One. And this is what she looks like. I'm sure you guys have seen this one. And I mean, is this not a beautiful palette for spring? Look at that. Try not to blind you guys. Look at that tone. Look at those tones. If you want something a bit soft, if you want something that is super easy to use, you still get the sparkles and the special shades. I mean, for me, my favorite tones in this palette, and I'll take swatches of all of them on my fingers. These are my favorite tones in this palette. Look how soft and beautiful those are. And then you've got this like peachy tone. This is a beautiful palette. It's not like at the top of my list, but this is actually the first full-size Pat McGrath palette that I've ever purchased. Like, this was the first one, and this palette is what made me fall in love with and made me want to open my wallet to buy another one. So I do still highly recommend this palette because I think it's a beautiful palette. Everyone raves about Pat's special shades, but I love her metallics. I love her metallics. I find them to be so versatile in use more than the sparkles. The sparkles will be the sparkles, you know, the sparkles are gonna sparkle. But with her metallics, they have a quality that allow you to buff them out into the lid. You get kind of a satin finish. You can do more with those shades. They're a bit more versatile for me personally, and that's why I tend to prefer that formulation. But I think this is a beautiful, if you want a little color, a little rosiness, but like turned down a notch, this is a perfect option. And this is like, this packaging is when she released her Divine Rose 2, and she came out with the special packaging for both of the Divine Rose palettes. I bought the special packaging, and then I already owned this. I already owned it in the black regular packaging, and I bought it in the pink, and then sold my black packaging because I was like, I gotta have the pink. I have to have the pink. So every time when I open this up now, I just get a little smile because look how cute that is. It's very springy, you know? Another Pat McGrath palette that is newer to my collection, but I think is a great palette for spring, and it is her Utopian Dreams palette. So I bought this in the winter, and I wore it in the winter, but I kept thinking about how pretty this would be. And let me zoom in because it's kind of like, or zoom, there you go. That gives you a bit more of an idea of what the tones look like. How beautiful is that? You get your pinky tones, you get a little bit of like, this kind of shifts. So it looks pink, it looks white, it has a little bit of gold in it. They're just beautiful springy tones. Beautiful. I got this on sale, and I think she just recently had a sale, and she'll probably have another one. The great thing about Pat is that Pat always has a sale. There's stuff you want, just wait. Honestly, just wait. She's been so great about having regular sales. You don't have to spend the full price for these palettes. I haven't spent full price on a Pat McGrath palette in forever. I don't think I've ever spent full price on a Mothership. You don't have to. You just have to be patient. Even when she does releases though, you get 10% off if you sign up for the alert. So again, you don't have to pay full price. So if you don't have this and you've got your eye on it, she's probably gonna have a sale soon. Just wait, pick it up then. But it's a beautiful, beautiful palette. And this is a palette that surprised me because I originally didn't want it at all. And I bought it when I bought Moonlit Seduction because she was having a sale, and I was like, I'm gonna complete my collection, and I'm glad I did because I actually, when I had both, was reaching for that one more, which is shocking to me. Shocking. All right, guys, so that is my little list of spring palettes, or palettes that are great for spring. If you own any of these, I hope that sort of inspires you to pick them out, you know, take them out of your collection and play with them this season. If there's something that caught your eye, like I said, wait for sales. There will be sales. And also the Cosmic Brushes palettes are so affordable. So again, that one is just more of like a gotta be quick on the draw type of situation, but worth the wait and very much worth the $23 price point. Now let's talk about quickly, because I'm still doing my Pat McGrath lipstick project, and so I wanted to let you guys know what I'm wearing on my lips today. So we are on day 23, I think. I'll have to look at my little notes, but I think it's day 23, either day 22 or day 23. And I am wearing the Matte Trans shade in Dream Lover. Looks like this, and I've got a little bit of fuzz on it. There we go. Looks like this, and it's quite light on me. I lined my lips with a darker pencil, and then I went over it with my Pat McGrath Lust Gloss in Dare to Bear. So that's why I got the glossy finish, which I'm loving. And that is everything, guys. Let me know in the comments down below. What are some of your favorite palettes for spring? Do you own any of these palettes? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed today's video, please be sure to hit the like button, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye now.